Our top focus as of now, a day after a Chinese Galwan soldier was made the Olympic torch bearer, India has announced a diplomatic boycott of the Winter Games in Beijing. This means that India will not send any officials to the Games. However, the country will still send its athletes to compete. In response to Wion's question on China politicizing the Games, this is what the Ministry of External Affairs had to say. Listen in.
It is indeed regrettable that the Chinese side has chosen to politicize an event like the Olympics. I wish to inform that our chargé d'affaires of the Embassy of India in Beijing will not be attending the opening or the closing ceremony of the Beijing 22 Winter Olympics.
Yesterday, Xi Fabao was China's torch-bearer for the Olympic torch relay. But who exactly is this man? He is a People's Liberation Army or PLA regiment commander, one who apparently sustained a head injury during the clashes in Galwan. China's prime propaganda machine, the Global Times, even called him the Galwan Valley border clash hero. This is the same China which earlier denied its casualties for days on end. But now, China wants to honor a man, a Galwan commander who is trying to use a ceremony highlighting the Olympic spirit to provoke India. This comes as the two sides are now trying to resolve the crisis diplomatically. So far, 14 rounds of talks have been held between New Delhi and Beijing. However, both sides have failed to make any headway in the talks. The soldiers of India and China clashed in the year 2020, resulting in the loss of several lives on both ends. The clashes erupted after the unprovoked aggression by Chinese troops in Galwan Valley in Ladakh. It has been nearly 2 years since the incident. Currently, there has been disengagement at many flashpoints, but tensions continue to simmer between the two countries. It's important to note at this point that India is not the only country to announce a diplomatic boycott of the Beijing Olympics. It joined several other nations like the US, the UK, Canada and Australia. The Japanese government has also said that it will not send a delegation to the Games. By the end of January, several other European nations also joined this diplomatic boycott, including Estonia, Latvia, Sweden, the Netherlands and Denmark. Now for more on this, joining us now is our principal diplomatic correspondent, Siddhant Sibal from New Delhi. Siddhant, thanks for joining us. This, of course, is a big news development. India has made its stance pretty clear on China's decision to use a PLA officer from the Galwan clashes as a torchbearer for the Games, saying that it is quite regrettable to see the Olympics being politicized. What more can you tell us about New Delhi's decision?
Well, a strong decision by New Delhi today when it comes to the Winter Olympics. There is a background to it. November of last year saw the RIC or Russia, India, China Foreign Ministers meeting, in which India affirmed in the joint statement that it's not going to boycott, it's going to take part in the Winter Olympics. In fact, even now India is going to take part by sending its only athlete who was qualified for the Winter Olympics. But there will be no official, no top diplomat at the Olympics as announced by India. India right now has CDA in Beijing. There is no envoy. Pradeep Rawat is the nominated envoy, but he still has to present his credentials. But talking about this decision, so in last 1 hour, two major decisions have emanated from Delhi. One, of course, as you pointed out, as we all know now, that India's top diplomat will not be present in the opening and the closing of the ceremony. Right. Also, the state broadcaster of India is not going to live broadcast the Winter Olympics ceremony. That, of course, is a strong message to not only China but also to President Xi Jinping.
Absolutely, Siddhant. Now, Beijing has earlier blamed the West for politicizing the sport after several nations earlier announced diplomatic boycotts as well. And now Beijing is doing the very same thing. What can be said about that?
Well, when India signed that joint statement in November of last year, one of the main things that India signed, agreed to it, that China will not politicize the Winter Olympics. Now, China has done that by, of course, the PLA commander being the torchbearer, and that is why this major and massive decision taken by New Delhi. And when it comes to what China has been saying, well, China says something, does something, so it's very difficult to, of course, trust China by the international community, and that is why the Winter Olympics Olympics have been perhaps the most controversial Olympics in last over 20 years. Last time such boycotts were seen, it was seen in early 80s when the world was divided into two blocks, the USSR and of course the West led by United States. And now again we have seen these diplomats, and that is primarily because what China has been doing, pushing the world to the brink.
WION World is One is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news updates on the move.